User Privacy and Large Language Models, an analysis of frontier developers' privacy policies. So, this paper digs into the privacy policies of 6 major US AI developers. It's really trying to get a clear picture of how they use our chat data for model training. And the headline finding is pretty stark. Every single one of the 6 developers they looked at uses customer chat data for training. And this is the key part. It's the default setting. So we'll walk through the problem they're tackling, how they did their analysis, what they found, what it all means, and finally, the recommendations they lay out. All right, let's start with the problem. What's the real issue here with how our chatbot data is being collected and used? Well, a lot of the focus has been on all that data scraped from the public internet. But what's been less clear, and what this paper really zeroes in on, is the data collected directly from us, the users, during our chats. Right, and the context here is the US legal framework, which is basically notice and consent. What that means is the burden is on you, the consumer, to figure out what a company is doing with your data. And the only real tool you have is the privacy policy, which is often incredibly dense and hard to parse. So with that in mind, the analysis set out to answer some really specific questions. Are our inputs actually being used for training? What kind of personal data are they collecting? And importantly, what are our options for opting out? Okay, so that's the problem. How did they go about analyzing it? They created a new system for this, a qualitative coding schema, and they based it on the principles in the California Consumer Privacy Act, the CCPA, which is one of the strongest privacy laws in the states. So which companies did they look at? They focused on 6 big ones: Amazon, Anthropic, Google, Meta, Microsoft, and OpenAI. The reason they chose this group is because they're all part of the Frontier Model Forum. And this wasn't just reading one document per company. They had to dig through the main policy and then follow this web of branch policies and FAQs. To give you an idea, OpenAI's information was scattered across at least 6 different documents. It makes it almost impossible for a regular user to track it all down. So after digging through all those documents, what did the analysis actually find? Okay, finding number 1, every single developer that actually specifies what they do uses customer chat inputs for training. And for 5 out of the 6, this is the default practice. You're opted in unless you find a way to opt out. Now, what about data retention? How long do they keep our chats? The policies are split right down the middle. 3 of the 6, that's Amazon, Meta, and OpenAI, appear to hold on to some of that chat data indefinitely. They might say it's for trust and safety, but the bottom line is it creates a permanent record of what you've said. And what did they find regarding data from younger users, say teenagers? It's a mixed bag, really inconsistent. 4 of the 6 companies let users as young as 13 sign up. Of those, Microsoft is the only one that says it won't train on data from users under 18. Google says it will, but only if the teen actively opts in. As for Meta and OpenAI, their policies on this just aren't clear. Handling sensitive personal data is another area where they differ. Microsoft, for its part, says it tries to remove identifiers, things like names and phone numbers, before training. Anthropic and OpenAI take a different tack. They say they train their models not to reveal personal data that might be in the training set. That's a much more reactive approach, trying to contain it after the fact. And this is a big one. Both Google and OpenAI state that human reviewers can and do look at user chats, supposedly for quality control. In fact, Google's policy has a pretty blunt warning, and I'm quoting here, "Please don't enter confidential information or any data you would not want a reviewer to see." So these findings are pretty significant. What are the broader implications here, and what about the study's own limitations? Well, there are a few big takeaways. 1, our current privacy policies just might not be cut out for how complex LLM data practices are. 2, when opt-out is the default, it's not really a meaningful choice for users. 3, keeping data indefinitely is a huge security and privacy risk waiting to happen. And finally, when you can't tell where one product ends and another begins, it undermines basic data protection principles. And did the paper call out any of its own limitations?
It did. The authors are clear that the sample size is small, just 6 companies. And they also note this is just a snapshot in time, what the policies look like in mid-2024. These things can and do change quickly.
So based on all this, what does the paper propose as a path forward? All right, they lay out 5 key recommendations. The first 3 are about policy. They say we need comprehensive federal privacy regulation to fill the gaps. They also argue for requiring an active opt-in for model training instead of the current opt-out default. And third, companies should put all their AI data practices right in the main privacy policy, not hidden in some subdocument. The last two recommendations are more technical. Number 4 is that developers need to filter out personal info from user inputs by default. And number 5 is a call to promote innovation in privacy-preserving AI. Think about models that could run locally on your own device, not in the cloud. And that really brings us to the final, critical question the paper leaves us with. It's a trade-off we all need to think about. Is the performance boost these models get from training on our chat data worth the corresponding loss of our privacy?